Self-Publishing Podcast, episode number 116.
This episode of the Self-Publishing Podcast is brought to you by 99 Designs, the online marketplace that helps you get outstanding book cover designs at an affordable price. Start your custom design today at 99designs.com/SPP and enjoy a free Power Pack upgrade valued at $99.
Welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast, where if you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself. And now, here are your hosts, three guys who sometimes shower together. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Johnny, Sean, and Dave.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast, the podcast that's all about how to get your words out into the world without contending with agents, publishers, or the other gatekeepers in traditional publishing. I'm Johnny B. Truant, and my co-hosts are Sean Platt and David Wright. 116 episodes worth of off-topicness.
I bet you there's a good 10 episodes in that. I bet you if you compacted it, there's 10 amazing episodes in those 116. You guys think 10?
Maybe.
Dave says 5. Johnny says 20.
I looked at our podcast stats recently, and we're coming up on 1 million downloads at some point. So that's kind of neat to realize that's going on.
That is very neat. Oh my god, I'm still laughing. I still have a dry throat from laughing.
I almost killed Sean with a joke earlier, and
oh my god.
I thought we were going to lose him. I thought he was gonna choke out on us and just die over there in Austin, Texas, and we'd be able to do nothing but watch.
Yeah, I had to have like a gallon of water just in the time it took to get Google working again.
Yeah, well, fortunately, that's never fast. Gave you plenty of time to recover. By the way, here's how frustrated I am with the non-digital world. Like, I've gotten so spoiled with the way things are digitally. And by the way, I realize this is technically digital too, but we're going on a family road trip.
This is just how bad the problem is.
Right, exactly. So we're going on a family road trip starting tomorrow. And
why?
Because, well,
you didn't know they're visiting you in Redacted. They're driving straight to Redacted to visit Uncle Davey.
Why would anyone drive with their family?
My son wants to listen to the Dream Engine audiobook, and so I put it on CDs. It's 10 CDs. Like it's like I'm like, why can I not just play MP3s? Why do I need to deal with 10 fucking CDs? I couldn't believe it.
Can't you put them on one MP3 CD?
Our van doesn't play an MP3 CD. Silly man.
Stereo.
No, well, that's what I'm going to do. Upgrade the stereo in my wife's minivan.
Oh, hell, they've been making CD players to play MP3s for like 10 years now.
Yeah, well, you can't underestimate the shittiness of this minivan. My car has
got an 8-track.
All of the wheel covers have fallen off of my car, and I have this giant crack through the windshield. Like, it's right where I look. Like, that's where the crack is. It's got like 170,000 miles on it. The horn doesn't work. The dashboard lights don't work. Like, it's just everything doesn't work.
I can't wait. We need to have a character with a shitty car like really soon.
You're gonna get to see it. And the door handle on the driver's side where you open the door, it's broken off, like half of it, so you have to just use 2 fingers to open it. And it works perfectly. Like, other than the fact that it's falling apart visually, it works perfectly. My wife's car looks great, and the engine falls out and shit. You take it in for an ashtray, and they'll be like, "Oh, that's $6,000 because your car doesn't work anymore."
You have what I call the perfect car, a car that runs great, but nobody would ever dream of robbing you or stealing it.
It's a decoy car.
Yes,
it is a decoy car.
So,
by the way,
you can, if you have insurance, which I assume you do for car insurance,
yes,
you can get your front window replaced.
You could also accidentally get it stolen.
Because I called the guy out, and he came out and he said, I can replace this windshield. It's free, like our deductible, it's free.
Right.
But the strip along the top is too rusted out that he's like, if I take it out, I won't be able to replace it. Like, there'll be nothing to glue it back to. You'll be left with, you know what I mean, Dave? The windshield is, and it doesn't look that rusty. Like, it looks.
Can't you replace that?
Well, for like $3,000 worth of body work or something. Yeah. So what we were going to do today was, we don't have a guest, and we're recording at an off time, so if anybody found us, then congratulations. I think we're going to come up with some sort of a system to schedule these further in advance or let people know, or I don't know. Archer is puzzling it out. But we're recording it as an off time because I am going away. And so we wanted to do an episode that we thought would be, we said what would be like the most helpful thing we could do, like what are people that are listening to this most likely to need. And as much as we like talking about our high-level strategy, and we will do that ongoingly, we decided that it would be to say, well, if you just had no books or one book and you had to start fresh, what would we do? Like, what's the state of self-publishing for a 0 or 1 book author?
Yeah, and what's cool about this is that just with Write, Publish, Repeat or anything else, I feel like the stuff that we talk about today should be still relevant 5 years from now, 10 years from now, for the most part, because this isn't dependent on any kind of ninja trick or anything that's working right now. The other day, I was listening to the first episode of SPP ever, which was really cool. Like, it was fun to refamiliarize myself with that. And most of the only stuff that we talk about in that first episode that isn't relevant now at all is a tiny bit is the KDP Select stuff. I think we would have done that differently. But other than that, it's creating books and then getting readers for it is an ongoing thing. So I think this is an evergreen topic, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Well, I also just recently listened to the legendary Sean Platt how to self-publish on Kindle interview that I did for JohnnyBTruant.com, and very, very little of that has changed. So again, it's just like, I think you talked a little bit about Select, but that's it. I mean, there were some things we were a little unsure on, and I remember having questions about like fonts and stuff. But everything in there is relevant, and that was what, 2.5 years ago, something like that. And
yeah, that's going on 3 years. In October, that'll be 3 years. So that's a long time.
So there you go. So if you're new to SPP, you can hang in there because it's not going to change too terribly much.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of the frenzy you get. I personally haven't spent any time on the K-boards, but it seems like that's kind of the frenzy that you can get in places like that, or just in the indie publishing community in general, is about what's changing. And I think that a lot of times the more important thing to focus on is what's the same, because you want to get really good at that. Because it's too hard to climb mountains of sand. You want to be good at the things that are always going to be important.
One of the things that I said in that first interview with Sean, because I was at the time, just to set the frame for everybody, I mean, 2.5 years ago, we're about 1.5 years into we're 2 years. We're over 2 years on SPP, but at the time I hadn't done any self-publishing. I had one book that I hadn't even cleaned up yet. It was the Bialy Pimps. And I hadn't even cleaned it up and gotten it ready for Kindle yet, meaning that I had a large edit that I did and I hadn't done that yet. And so that was one of those things where I was trying to pump Sean for information, because Sean and Dave were doing this self-publishing thing that I was intrigued by and I wanted to find out about it. And so a lot of that, me as the interviewer, I wasn't an authority at all. I was trying to figure it out. And one of the things that I said at some point is I said to anybody listening, like, if you think that this sounds complicated, just stop back. And I'm speaking to like an audience who knows blogging and online marketing without the air quotes and evil. You know what I mean? Like marketing online, selling things online, and just basic marketing, like basic business stuff. And so I said, if this seems complicated, just stop back for a second and say, like, look at this. This is all we're doing here. Is you're saying, what do readers want? You're delivering it to them for good value. You're creating calls to action that draw person from one thing to another. So it isn't as complicated as it may be in terms of Kindle and file formats and uploading and all this. You're just running a business, and that's one of the things that we've maintained throughout all of SPP is stop thinking about the tactics and the little teeny knobs and buttons that you can turn and the little tricks, and think more about what are you ultimately doing. You're a seller with a product, and you're trying to reach an audience in a way that makes sense to them, and ninja tricks aren't the way to do that.
Right. I think what I love about this topic is that, it's like a good story. It's like Unboxed. You have fences, and then you have to work within those fences, and it creates something better, right? And the restriction of saying you have no inventory is a big one, because what I'm finding right now, especially as we're building Sterling and Stone out, we have a lot of inventory. So that gives us a lot to play with. It gives us a lot of things that we can do, a lot of chances we can take. And when you have nothing, going back to Available Darkness for me and Dave, that very, very first, it wasn't even a serial. Like we released that as just a standalone title. And Bialy Pimps for You, when it was still in draft, like you got nothing and you got to get out to market. Your decisions are going to be different. And I'm assuming in this premise, our answer can't be the typical write another book, right? It's like, what are you doing while you're writing that other book? Because I think that no matter what, I absolutely have to stick with that. That no matter what you're trying to do to sell that one book that you have, the very first thing that I would do, absolutely no matter what, is still carve time into my schedule to be working on the follow-up. I think that everything else that you're doing has to come after that. So as long as that's understood, how do we rock and roll with this?
Dave, what do you think about all this if you were starting out fresh? What do you think that has worked over the past few years that you would keep versus what you change versus how the market is now, as opposed to how it was when you started?
I don't know what I would do. I don't know what things I wouldn't do that we've done other than, KDP Select and the single episodes, stuff like that. What I know I would do is I would definitely be more of a presence blogging. And I think that's something that our friend Carl Sinclair does well. He has his geek blog, and he talks about geeky things. He's not talking about himself. He's not talking about his product. He's talking about, Game of Thrones, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or no, he doesn't talk about that, but Marvel stuff, just various things that, he's interested in, that he's really interested in, and that other geeks are interested in. And he's irreverent. He's talking about, stuff that people can be part of the conversation. It's having a presence in some way, a blog or a podcast or something. Being part of a conversation, I think, is important, semi-related to what you're going to do. So if you're going to write a horror series, maybe you're going to talk about horror. Or you're going to talk about stuff that, other horror writers or readers like. That's what I would do. I don't know that is the best advice, but I think it's a good way to get known before you become known for your writing.
So I want to agree, and then I have a question specifically for Sean on that. Because I agree. I think you need to be out there. You need to have a presence. And even when I launched the Bialy Pimps, I had a really, really misaligned audience. I had people who were interested in reading my stuff, but they weren't interested. Well, they didn't know that I did fiction, and so they weren't necessarily predisposed to be interested in a novel I wrote.
But it's also like anybody. You can like somebody, and then they say, "Oh, I wrote a book," and it's just a big leap. It doesn't matter how much you like somebody. That doesn't mean you want to read their book. It's
framed differently too. Like it's always like, "Oh, you wrote a book. Yeah, good for you. I'm gonna pat you on the head. Like good boy." And it feels different. And I felt like it took at least a year of putting out consistently before my old Johnny B. Truant audience, a section of it, even kind of thought of me as an author and stopped thinking, oh, that's cute that he's written a book or two.
Right. They think it's a diversion and that you'll always be back to what you were doing.
Yeah, I think it changes, though, if you're writing about the right thing. I mean, you were writing about, self-improvement and stuff like that. I was writing humorous stuff, which is not in alignment with my audience now. In that doesn't work the same. But if you're writing for, fans of particular fiction, like Carl is. I mean, he's writing for fans that like geeky stuff. If he were to write a geeky novel, he's got a built-in audience. Will they all like it? No. But I think enough will try it out and spread word of mouth.
So Dave, have you thought about going back to, just real quick, going back to like your old Blogger Dad stuff and just to try to use that as lead gen, just add "and then they died" to like the last sentence of every post. And then
I have been wanting to write more humorous stuff, even though it's not in alignment with anything we're writing. Just
Let's get Dave in on Space Shuttle 2 Electric Boogaloo.
yeah. But I think it's different though, because now I am known. I think I can write. I don't have to necessarily write for my fiction readers. I can write because I think we have enough people that also like that other stuff, and we have the BOU audience. So I think there is an audience already there. It's a little bit different. I can also, write about the geeky and horror stuff that I also like, and perhaps attract those people as well.
I think you're 100%. Well, actually, Johnny had a question.
Right. Well, but I'm gonna. Okay. Here's my question, and then put a pin in yours if it's relevant, because I don't know. Okay. Well, anyway, so Dave's advice about blogging, I agree with it, and I also know what happened with Realm and Sands, where we put a lot of attention into that, and to the exclusion of stuff. Like anybody who's interested in Robot Proletariat, we would have had season 2 written by now, but we didn't because we were doing so much blogging, and eventually we kind of threw up our hands and said, at least in the way we're doing it, this isn't. It's not that it wasn't working; it's that the trade-off in time spend wasn't right. So I'm trying to decide, like, I agree, and I also, in our case, we decided not to keep going. So
you're writing these epic posts that took a long ass time to write. If you write less epic, if you write short, I mean, you guys know that typically bloggers or readers of blogs want short. They want brevity. They want 400 words at most, maybe 500. They want a quick slice of entertainment that they can read, maybe comment on, and then be on their way. That's what blogging is, and you guys are writing stuff for a different kind of crowd, and it took a lot of thought. If you're writing about an episode, you like True Blood. If you're writing about the latest True Blood, you're gonna get vampire fans. That would be great to have right now for if you're doing another fat vampire book right now. You write, your thoughts on last night's True Blood, 200, 300 words, and that's all you really need to do. Short little things about stuff that you like.
I think that's absolutely right, because sorry, Sean, I keep cutting you off.
No, go ahead.
Well, because what Dave's hitting at here, and it's sort of, I kind of went that direction too. And by the way, this is really throwing me off that I feel very thoughtful, and we're not making dick jokes. It's just very odd. Like, I feel like I need a CNN scroll.
And we got the topic right away. This is totally unlike us.
I know. Well, I have some dick jokes for later. I'll save them. It isn't that the blogging wasn't worth it. It was that or it wasn't that it wasn't working. It was that the time spend that we had wasn't worth it. And I think that you need to weigh everything like that. It's not black and white. It's not, is this good or is this bad? It's the time that I'm putting into it relative to the time that I have, relative to the output, relative to other things I could be doing. And epic posts are what I'm doing right now, and you guys will see this later if you follow the sterlingandstone.net site. I don't know when we're going to do this. We're creating, Sean mentioned before the model of using blogging as DVD extras. And I kind of got that, but I didn't until I started writing Axis, or actually more accurately until I was writing Dream Engine. And so every day, as part of writing the Dream Engine for Fiction Unboxed, I had to just write a little, here's what happened today. Like, here's my thoughts on it. I decided to go this direction because it was interesting, and I had to examine my own process of I had to go this direction, why? And we decided going forward with Axis now, I'm writing Axis, which will be called something else, with Axis in the title, I'm sure. I've been taking every day before I sign out, I've been writing just a few hundred words of thoughts on what's going now. And it's like director's commentary in the back of a DVD when you can watch again later. And those do go fast. Those take 10 minutes, and they're just downloads. And the epic posts, what we were trying to do is I was able to move people and generate momentum with those posts on my old blog, but it didn't translate as well. And the time, you have to have a thesis that logically progresses through an argument, and then you have to have a hammer of a conclusion, and these things I can just dash off. So I guess I see definitely where we're going there.
Yeah, and that's actually the point. There is no right answer. What you have to find something that absolutely works for you and the way that you communicate best. So, like for me, for a long time, I was blogging when I shouldn't have been, right? Like, like it was already to the point where I shouldn't have been doing it. I didn't feel passionate about it. I wasn't saying things that meant something deep to me, and so that's a waste of time. SPP immediately from episode 1 on, like I've loved SPP. It's verbal. I'm with friends. It's exciting. We can make dick jokes. It's a great way for me to broadcast. I love it. And that's important. So I could do 116 episodes. It doesn't make me tired. It's a great use of my time. I love it. And it's taken a long time to figure out a way that blogging is going to work again. And I'm really excited about what we're doing. But I think for a long time, we're doing things that aren't natural to us. And it's really, really important to find that. You want to connect with a community. Your community might be on Tumblr or Wattpad or Pinterest or Twitter or Facebook or wherever. And you want to use your blog, ideally, if you have one, but also your social media presence. Don't think I've got to be everywhere. People have to see my name. Like if you go wide like that, it's just going to be really hard. So you should spend the most of your time connecting with the people who are most likely to enjoy your books. And here's the magical thing about that anyway. The people who are most likely to enjoy your books are probably the people you would want to be around anyway, because you have common interests, you have intersections. That's why you like the same things. So it just makes sense to go and however you communicate, if that's visually. If you are a fan of vampire books, and you're a visual person, you could have a cool vampire board on Pinterest. Now, of course, the conversion there is lousy. That's not what you're trying to do. It's not about, getting as many people to see your book cover as possible. It's about being a part of a community that is, interested in what you're doing.
Yeah, that is one of the things that I think a lot of people struggle with, and I'm not particularly great at networking myself. I don't like when I came up blogging, I read the advice and stuff, like comment on other people's blogs and stuff like that, and try to get people to go back to your blog, and I could never do that because it's not me, it's not who I am, and I'm glad I didn't do it, because if I had done it, I would have been very obvious at it and very bad at it. I think the best advice.
Can you just say first? Does that count?
Yeah, right. But I think if you are yourself and you find places where you can be yourself and talk with other people without worrying about the end game, without worrying about, like you said, if I post this on Pinterest, does that mean people are going to come back to my blog? One thing I noticed on Twitter a lot, I mean, so many writers, and I'm just shocked by this, even writers that should know better and that are selling well, they use Twitter almost specifically to every 5 minutes pump something about a review or something about their book. And when they follow me, when someone follows me, a lot of times I miss it just because it gets lost in the stream. So I'm sorry if I didn't follow you back if you're not one of these people. But if you are one of these people, this is why I didn't follow you back. When I go to your page and I see 20 damn things in a row about your book, I'm not going to follow you. I don't care. I don't want to read. I don't want to be advertised to all damn day. I want to have conversations with people. So that's my thing. If you're having conversations with people, I mean, if you follow Neil Gaiman, he's not talking about his damn books all the time. He's talking with other people. He's not saying, hey, do you like a thriller? No, he's not doing that. He's having conversations with people. Be yourself.
Look, here's the truth. This is the thunderclap lesson right here, right? Don't use social capital if there is like nothing in it. Like, it's ridiculous. If you send out a tweet, no one's clicking on that to go buy your book off that tweet. Conversion in that context is just barely existent. So all you're doing is looking like a dick in front of people. Like, that's not really a dick joke, but we use the word dick.
You're looking like a whore, really.
Yeah. It's just stupid. No one's paying attention to you. if it's one tweet among a larger, broadcast pattern, that's different. That's expected. No one has a problem with that. But really, you want to be the signal, not the noise. It's so important. Okay, so to really, okay. So should we pick a fake book and pretend that there's a fake book, and what would we do to make this book successful? Something like that.
Well, do we need a fake book? Can't we just say if you have one book? You just want to outline something else. This is Sean's excuse to offload a project that he can't get otherwise.
No, I'm. God damn it! Hold on.
I can't believe I almost killed you with a joke. It's fantastic. He's taking more sips from that Hunger Games cup. Hey, in the meantime, what I had a question about was for Dave.
Oh, me?
Yes, just if you were planning out a book cover. I know this is on topic. You got to stick with me on this. How long does it take?
It varies.
So as long as it took for you to write Crash?
30 years or 20 years. No. It could anywhere from a day to a week. I mean, I like to have some time to think about the project, make a few different versions, and run them by people.
Well, what about the people who don't have a Crash length time to do a cover? Do you just say is the official word David Wright says, "Fuck yourself, you're screwed"? Official, if you're going to put out a press release?
No, if they don't already have a designer in mind and available, waiting in the wings or in their basement or something, it can take a while to find a designer you like, and then you got to hope they're available to do the project in the time frame that you need. It's not like every designer sitting around waiting for you to come along and hire them.
Well, there's no solution then. I mean, what are you going to do?
No, there is. There is a solution, Johnny.
What is the solution?
It is called 99 Designs.
Oh, you tell me more. I've never heard of this.
99 Designs is a place where designers are waiting for you. We've used 99 Designs several times, whether it was when I didn't think I could do the cover justice.
Under or over 99 times have we used them.
We've used them under 99 times. I don't think we have that many books out, do we? If I didn't think I could do the book justice, the cover justice, or I didn't have time with my hectic writing schedule, it takes a lot of time to be miserable and sit in a dungeon and write.
Right.
And their designers have always come through for us with great designs, too many to choose from. At 99 Designs, it's easy and affordable to get a design you love within a week. You just fill in the online brief, get dozens of designs to pick your favorite. I highly recommend 99 Designs, and the best part is that 99 Designs
I'll bet you have a lot to lose, though.
A 100% money-back guarantee, and you've got nothing, zero to lose.
Do you think there are any of our books that 99 Designs could save, like Space Shuttle, with a better cover?
I think 99 Designs could save Space Shuttle. Maybe they should do Space Shuttle to Electric Boogaloo.
Do you think this is kind of a paradox question? If you said I need a terrible book cover because I'm trying to sabotage a rival's book, this is what would you do? Do you think they'd be able to pull it off, or do you think they're too awesome?
I think a great designer can even make an great awful design.
But that really raises one of the largest philosophical questions of our time. Is a great terrible cover truly terrible?
It's all in the eye of the beholder.
All right, so start your custom design today at 99designs.com/SPP and enjoy a free Power Pack upgrade valued at $99, which gives you more designer time and attention. So you get nearly twice as many designs. Whether or not that comes under 99 Designs, I don't know. So 99designs.com/SPP. I wonder why they does anybody know what the 99 means? Does anybody know the history here of why they used a number? I don't know.
No, but I'm sensing next week's ad read might.
Oh. We should also have another spontaneous discussion about the Sterling and Stone logo. By the way, has that been initiated? Do you know? Because we're.
Yes, as of yesterday.
Oh, yay!
But
do we still have a firm launch date for that site?
Well, no, because it's actually the day after tomorrow. So
Oh, okay, good.
right. So there's just no way we could even get like the tiny like skeleton that we wanted for the site done. So what we're doing instead is I'm just writing. Basically, if you're on any of our lists, you'll get an email day after tomorrow. At the time of this recording, this is one of those funny things. It may actually be that like a
Why don't you
week
give a
after.
date? Those are universal.
What? Yeah. What is the date?
Sometimes,
it's 17th.
sometimes
No,
physicists sometimes give things in podcast time. They learned that they
All right.
needed a
So
universal
it's
standard
July
called a date.
17th. It's July 17th. Was going to be the Sterling and Stone launch date, but that didn't happen. So we're probably doing a drop dead by July 31st.
You're gonna drop dead
Yes, probably because
I
Johnny
agree to that.
live on the web.
but we're sending out a first welcome post type of thing on on Thursday, July 17th, and that's already written. It just needs to be kind of edited and gone through.
Real quick, we do have a cover-related question here from Bipolar Type 1 Madness.
Oh,
I hope that's
99designs.com.
that's not an SEO title. What if you take screenshots in a video game like Second Life or some virtual world and morph the pics, edit, and make a good cover out of it? Do you think you could use it without copyright issues? No, you cannot use it. You cannot use other people's assets.
I'm not going anywhere near that question. I mean,
And
come on,
I would
that'd be
also
more
challenge.
literal.
I would also challenge you that it will not look good. I see a lot of people that try to do stuff like that and think it looks good, but it usually looks like an abortion.
It looks like what it is. You can see the seams on it, and that's enough. I would also
What you do is you put. This is a technique that I caught this from Jason Gurley off air. Is you put the Millennium Falcon and Disney princesses on your cover all the time. You're allowed to do that. And like Yoda.
No, not really.
All right, I was going to wait and see if somebody did that. Let me get the email. I did exactly what you wanted.
Disney is coming, taking my house from me.
Yeah, sorry, Jason. That was actually Robert Bruce's suggestion.
It's my new book, Star Wars Princesses.
So before we get back to our topic, this is a little tangential. I mean, it's on the topic, but so my first book was a lot of people who do their first book. They want to write a novel. They want to write the great American novel, and so they write a big book that's 100,000 words plus. It stands alone. That's what I did. My first book, The Bialy Pimps, is maybe 115,000 words down from 160 or something. I mean, I massacred the shit out of it when I published it. And I think in general we shy away from that model. We want things that have sequels and upsells. But that said, I've noticed a trend, at least at Realm and Sands, where and Crash is this way, is Axis is a standalone. It will not have a follow-up. And Sean and I have said we're really enjoying that this is a standalone and kind of want to write more 100,000 word plus books that don't have any sequels at all. And I think that's just a position in your career sort of a thing.
You know, I used to work with somebody that had an opinion on first books and why they're so damn long. And basically his opinion was that a first book is just everything you've stored up. But if you look at anybody's first book, you can tell like what their issues are, what their fears are, and what their hopes are. They're all in that one book. And you can basically psychoanalyze somebody by their very first book.
Wow, I totally agree with that, actually.
Yeah, I totally agree with that too.
Because you think that this is my book. You don't think, because now what I find is we're like, well, so that's a good idea, but that's just, that'll take 2 weeks, so we'll just keep going on, move on to the next one. But when you start, and for a lot of people like ongoingly, it takes a really long time, and so I better get all these ideas into this one book.
You know what? For me, it was I never thought that this would be my one book. Like I knew that I was playing when I first started to write. Like I knew that whatever I'm writing now, no one's ever going to see because I'm going to throw this book away. And in a way, that was really freeing because it really was just like this big brain dump. And then when I stopped to look over what I had, I basically came to the conclusion that I'm not man enough to write the book yet. Like I haven't lived enough life. I'm not smart enough. I'm not lived enough. And that I'll get there.
Darn it, people don't like me.
I knew that was coming.
And I'll get there. I'll get there someday. But it was But yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of my shit in that book. There would have to be, because it's just like emotional dumping. It's just, that's what you do when you sit down for the first time, and it's right. It's the stuff that we write now has an immediacy to it. You know, it'll have a recent conversation, or something you just saw while driving down the street, a funny bumper sticker or whatever. That stuff makes it into your work because you're constantly, skimming from the surface. When that first book, you're just digging deep, right? You're sitting and rooted and digging.
The Bialy Pimps, like I said, decreased by a quarter or a third of its total length, and what I tried to cut out was the emotional throat clearing that wasn't relevant. Like, there's still a lot of issues in that book, but there was a lot that, like, it was like I was writing a diary. And I'm so not that any agent was going to take that, but I'm so glad they didn't, because it would have been like just standing there naked. You know what I mean? Like, why did I include this big long section that doesn't go anywhere? But I was too close to it at the time.
Is that
right,
still in the current version?
No, that's what I'm saying. I edited it out.
It's all chopped out. It's cold.
Right. Right. The stuff that's there now is hopefully moves you in some way, like I would hope that anything we write does, but it moves the story forward. And at the time, it was, and I gave myself permission to do this. Like, when I wrote it, I said, I'm going to write this just as a dump, and I anticipate either setting it aside and dealing with it later, or editing it. But a lot of it was just it was like a diary. It was like, and it was about a real place too, like a place that was dear to me. Like, it holds a lot of my cherished memories. And so if there was a character who used to come into this place, I couldn't cut them from the draft. I had to include them, because otherwise I was cutting them out of my life. Like, it was like I was giving them continued existence by telling those stories, which I might later forget. So it felt like a burden.
So, like watching the Louis show, right, where it ends with the same disclaimer as all shows. The characters in this are based on no one, and it's all coincidence. So your book, that disclaimer is total bullshit, right? It's clearly.
I've changed it all. I've changed all the names and everything enough that I can get away with it.
Protect the guilty.
But it's all based on people. Like, what percentage?
No, it's not, Sean. What, are you trying to get a confession on the air? Are you working for somebody's lawyer?
What percentage of the Bialy Pimps is not based on real life?
The setting, and by setting I mean the place, the atmosphere, the characters who inhabit the world, with the exception of just like one or two people. That's all real, and a lot of the little incidental things that occur between the people in that book are mostly real. And then the rest became, about a third of the way through the book, it became a fantasy of, this is what would have been hilarious if it had occurred. And then it goes
Right.
then it goes strange new places. But the beginning, so I don't know how far you got, Sean, but if you're still in the first third, you've probably mostly read True Stuff.
No, I'd say slightly past the first third, but not by
Like,
much.
there really was a Captain Dipshit. I mean, I don't think that was his birth name. I don't think, but there really was that guy, and his dog really was a vegan.
That's all hilarious. Okay, well, this may be too hard, but how about that? Because if a lot of people have their Bialy Pimps, right? A lot of listeners have their Bialy Pimps. So what would you do with the Bialy Pimps? Now, I mean,
But before you go down that route, the question that I actually asked, and maybe this is a question, maybe we want to come back to this, is why is it that we are now trending toward this sort of book, not exclusively by any means, but toward a large part of inclusion of that sort of book that we generally advise people away from? Why are we doing that?
you mean why are we advising people away from Serial and
Axis is the sort of book that we would generally not recommend somebody who wanted to make a career out of writing. Right.
Because we've already established.
Because we can afford it. I mean, creatively, we can afford the spend. We can afford the word count. It gives diversity to our lineup. It's a portfolio move. I wouldn't write Axis right now if we didn't have the other stuff to act as anchors. I think it makes it easier. I would suggest, if I was just starting out, if somebody said, "What can I do?" Because right now I hate my cubicle, and more than anything, I just want to make a living as a fiction writer. What is the shortest route to do that? Now, other things being equal, yeah, you've got to market, and yeah, you have to build relationships and all of that. Taking all of that aside, I would say, pick a genre and create a good series, because that is the way to have kind of some sort of consistency, assuming all other things are being equal. Axis is none of that, right? Axis is not Spielberg, it's David Lynch. So that's harder. But I think that after the year of production that we did to get a lot of our series in place, I think that we wanted a project like Axis, and it would have been Atlas before that, right? We wanted that kind of project, and we'd been talking about it for a while, and now that we're doing it and it feels really good, we want to do it again. It's just, we have to decide at any given point what's best for us as a business and what's best for us creatively, and I think that giving ourselves variety is really important.
Just one more instance of don't take anything that we say here as gospel. We say over and over again, this isn't advice. Like, we're kind of giving advice, but we're also kind of not, in that everything should be couched in terms of where you are, not because we're not where you are. And if somebody takes our advice pat, then it's not going to apply. So as an example, I'm finding that in addition to a book like Axis, which won't have a funnel starter, it won't have a sequel, it stands alone, totally and completely alone. And it has to. Like, anybody who reads it, you'll understand. We couldn't write a sequel, not without being total whores about it. And but the Dream Engine 2, that's a series, but the first book is 100,000 words, and they'll get longer. Connor Quick, the kids' book, will probably be around 80,000. Like, we're definitely trending toward, even in our series, larger books. Like, The Beam is a serial, but again, it's gotten longer and longer. And so what I've noticed personally, this is Realm and Sands, maybe Collective Inkwell as well. This is the trend toward longer books is relative to where we are. Where we are. Like, I feel like we need something meatier, but I don't think we would give the same advice to anybody else.
No, I see a lot of authors now actually releasing much smaller books and more frequently. People are doing now what we were doing like a year and a half ago.
But it's important for us to continue push ourselves and evolve, and this is what's it's exactly like the social media thing, right? Like, just because we have a podcast doesn't mean you should have your podcasts, and it really is, like, I think someday we may figure out Pinterest, but right now we suck at Pinterest. Like, we should not be anywhere near Pinterest. If you see us near Pinterest, it is purely an experiment. You probably belong there more than us. And that's the important thing. Don't just do things because you're throwing it against the wall. Really listen to yourself. This is what I'm good at, so therefore this is where I'll get the most for my time.
We also want a large cross-section of different sorts of work, because we want to be able to... Everything that we do feeds off of the other things that we do, and we consider a larger body of work, not any one book. And one of the things that I thought about when we were writing the Dream Engine is we had promised a quote, full-length book, which meant at least 75,000 words by the definition of the Fiction Unboxed Kickstarter. And we secretly wanted to get it closer to 100 just because. And that's what it ended up being. Now, a series like the Dream Engine, and I think that Ed Robertson's Breakers series is a lot like this too, it's a highly commercial potential series. Like, it's young adult, it's steampunk, but it's a mainstream sort of a feel. It hits that sweet spot of readers, and the kind of book that's going to show up in a Barnes & Noble, not that needs to be your metric, but whatever, that's probably, you don't see a lot of 30,000 word novels. You see big, meaty 100,000 word novels. Like, that's sort of the archetype for a successful mega series. Now, not that we're trying to hit a mega series, but we want something in our catalog that fits that mold.
That's representative.
Because we already have the other stuff. I just wanted to make that point.
Well, that's what I meant by it's a portfolio move, right? Like, it's something that we're diversifying. I really like, I like filmmakers like Soderbergh a lot, where they're always willing.
Saw Magic Mike the other day. What the fuck on that movie, by the way?
They're always willing to. They're always willing to experiment.
Of course you did.
I liked it.
But they also go between smaller indie films and then big Hollywood stuff. And I think that that we like to do that too in our way. You know, we've got our little indie stuff, and we got our stuff that has a bigger budget and is supposed to be more mainstream. What's up, Dave?
Well, we're talking a lot about what we're currently doing, but we need to get back to
okay. Well, yeah, good. So,
and what would somebody that just they just vomited up this giant novel? What should they do? Should they get right to work on the second one? Should they bury the first one and write a second one and see if the second one is the one they should promote?
I have two thoughts on this.
About the BLE pimps. Do you want me to go down that road or?
Because I think that's good, because I think a lot of people have a BLE Pimps. So I know what I would do.
I don't mind if we talk about our own stuff here. I just don't want to talk about all the stuff we're currently doing, because that's not advice that.
No, you're right.
That's not what this episode's about.
No, I agree. But what I'm using the BLE Pimps as a word for the first book that you don't know what to do with and isn't a part of any funnel.
So is that the question? What would I do today with that?
Yeah. What would you do right now with BLE Pimps?
Or would you write some Fat Vampire short novels that are more to your audience that you're going for?
I don't know if this is the right answer, so just in the spirit of this isn't advice, just take this as, and I'll see what you guys think, is I don't know that there's a lot I can do with a BLE Pimps. Like, here's a few things you can do. Because whether or not I have other stuff in my catalog, I've considered the fact that book, it just doesn't sell.
It's a more literary novel for those that are not familiar with it.
Yes, and I do couch that a little bit because it's hard for me to call it literature, because it does have so many dick jokes, but it does have that feel. And so whether or not I have other stuff in my catalog, I've thought that too. Like, it never sells double digits unless there's some sort of promotion. I mean, I don't sell 10 of those a month. And so because I have more stuff, I'm more willing to consider things that I think a lot of first-time authors might not. Because if that's your only book, you're dear to it. And you're like, well, any change I make in the price is going to have grand ramifications, whereas to me it's this little teeny piece. But here are some things I've considered and that I do think are good ways to use that book. I've considered making it temporarily free and just trying to build list. Because every time I make that book free, Pixel of Ink picks it up. Every time. It's like clockwork. So I would say, well, in my case, I'd say, what can I possibly send people to in terms of other books? But if it were my only book, I'd probably move the CTA for Join My List to the front, or something like that.
Can you change the name of Fat Vampire to the BLE Pimps?
The BLE Vampires.
Oh, there you go. It doesn't have a pretty blue cover. As Robertson said, that Pixel of Ink likes pretty blue covers. Neither does the BLE Pimps.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I had one other thing I was going to try. The other was, so in case anybody's paying attention here, the idea is exposure. The idea is not making a bunch of money on this book. There may be ways to do that, but I don't know necessarily how well they would work. So the other thing I would do, and I may do this, although it's going to be a gut check, I'll explain it in a second, is I might reduce it to 99 cents and then do a BookBub ad if they'll have it. Now here's the gut check. I emailed Sean and I said, dude, do you think there's any chance BookBub would consider this literature? Because it's the only category that it fits in. It is not science fiction, it's not horror, it's not romance. If it's anything, it's literature, but I'm just like, it's about a bunch of assholes at a bagel deli. Like,
yeah, but
I guess it's literature.
Matter. Yeah.
But if I can get that ad, then a BookBub ad on something like Fat Vampire is good for a few thousand on Amazon for me. I don't know how well it would do with literature, but I know the list is bigger. And I'd probably get a lot of bad reviews. Like, I'd have to be like, okay, the literature people are going to shit on this if they take it. But then I might get some momentum. But I would look first and foremost at say, how do I use this to get me more eyes? And then I would start writing something like Fat Vampire was a good follow-up, even though it doesn't work as a follow-up, but as a good second.
I don't think they would take it as literature, because the cover's a fucking bagel with glasses. It says humor, and they avoid humor.
Yeah, they may avoid it as humor on the principle that it's humor. They've told me that, but they told me that with Fat Vampire. They said this is humor, and we don't have a humor.
Yeah, I think I know it's kind of a cheap answer, but I think that sometimes it's a little like blogging, right? So let's say you're trying to build a blog and you've spent a year trying to build that blog, then there's so much emotional investment in that blog. People have a really hard time just pulling the plug, right? So you crank away on something that's not working, and it's not going to, because it hurts to not do something different. And if your first book doesn't have a lot of commercial viability, and it's not directly linked to anything that you want to do, in the immediate future, then it's maybe okay to pull the plug and just write something else that has a more strategic plan. But because that is a cheap answer, I would say that you want to take that book and just get it in front of as many eyes as possible. Bialy Pimps is on Podiobooks, which,
I don't think it's done anything for me, but it did get me in front of eyes.
Right. And there's a Wattpad, which again I think Bialy Pimps would be a bad fit for that.
Just real quickly, I feel like Podiobooks for Fat Vampire and maybe Unicorn Western did very well because there's follow-ups. But the Bialy Pimps is huge. It's a 12-hour or 13-hour thing, and there's nothing to consume next. Like, my call to action is, do you want the Kindle version after you've already listened to it?
Archer Caldwell said, so is shorter and more frequent a better approach for someone without a large portfolio? If others are trending that way and you don't now because you because you don't have to, is that a decent step one? Well, I think it is, depending on your genre. If you're writing in a fantasy genre where stuff is typically a lot bigger, you might get some flack for releasing smaller books. But I think in a lot of the genres you can. But you got to be conscious.
Price accordingly, for sure. Yeah, price accordingly. But here's the thing: and I think the mistake a lot of authors, and I think self-publishing is probably changing this or evolving this. But if that used to be the paradigm, right? The 100,000 word book, that was a first-time novel. But 100,000 words is unwieldy. It's more complicated. There's more moving parts. So if you have 100,000 words in your budget, maybe it makes sense to write 3 35,000 word books or 4 25,000 word, stories that allow you to practice your craft as a writer. Because I think that the idea of knowing that this is how you tell a story and this is the rhythm of a story, working up to that 100,000 words might make more sense than just trying to bite it off all at once. Especially if you aren't. One of the things that makes it relatively easy for us to all write things of length is that we have each other. Collaboration does make length, easier. And so if we didn't have each other, I know 100,000 words would be, more difficult to manage. And if you're out there practicing and you're getting stuff to market, then something a little more bite-sized might make more sense.
I have another reason to write more stuff that doesn't have anything to do with funnels, doesn't have anything to do with the business aspects of, well, it does a little, is when I wrote the Bialy Pimps, when that was my first book, if you go back and look at the launch post on Johnny B. Truant for that, I don't know, you'd have to look for Bialy Pimps at johnnybtruant.com. There was a lot of, I put a lot of importance on it, on getting it just right. And I wanted to explain it just the right way. And I sent an email that was very carefully worded, and I tried to call in favors. And when I changed the price on that, like I really sweated it. And I was watching those numbers, and I watched the rankings like a hawk. But once I had Fat Vampire, Fat Vampire 2, Fat Vampire 3, I cared one hell of a lot less about the Bialy Pimps. Just because when you have one book or you have 2 books, it matters a lot to you what happens with any of those, and thus you're going to make your decisions based on emotion, not necessarily logic. So what I mentioned about making the Bialy Pimps free in an effort to get a lot of eyes, or putting it to 99 cents and trying it through BookBub, I'd be a lot more hesitant to do those things if it wasn't a small piece of my catalog. But I think that they're the right things to do, and that would be an emotional decision if I didn't do them. And that's what having more books does, is it allows you to look at your catalog a little more objectively. And just one more thing on that is Ed Robertson suggested that I do the BookBub ad for the Fat Vampire Value Meal, which is the first 4 books, at 99 cents. Now, I really resisted that because I mean, holy shit, it's 4 books at 99 cents. Now, it doesn't matter that it's only for a few days. That sucks. And that was an emotional reaction because I didn't have much else then. Like, we were just starting Unicorn Western. And once, like now, I did it again. It's a no-brainer. Like, why wouldn't I do it? Like, it's not selling a lot as it is, and especially the 4-book pack doesn't sell at all because they get 1 and they upgrade to the 6-book pack. So if you the less you care about any individual piece, the better you may make decisions regarding it.
Right, but ironically, it's most difficult to separate yourself from the work when it's your first book, right? Like, it's never going to be harder than that. So just pretend like it's not your first book, know that, or know that it is your first book, and just think of it as practice, because you are going to get better later. Like, you absolutely will.
That's why I was suggesting writing more, is to get a little more of that distance.
Yeah, Dave and I got I want to say it was a 3-star review on Available Darkness, season 1, about a week ago, and that book has.
I didn't see it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. That book has really, really good reviews. The Available Darkness, especially season 2. But season 2 was written after we were a little more seasoned. Available Darkness season 1 was actually written before Yesterday's Gone.
It was our first book.
It was our first work together, and the reviewer, said, "I'm a really big fan of their work." And if you look at her other reviews, and we've got good reviews from her. Great reviews, but her 3 stars, she's like, this just feels like their first work.
Well, I think we say it in the revised author's note.
Well, we do, but that doesn't mean she liked it anymore, right? And so to me, like, I really am appreciative of all the 5-star reviews. That's awesome, but her review has value. Like, she's like, look, this feels a little amateurish to me. You guys got better later. And so I think that's
burn our back catalog.
You're always going to get better. It's about writing. And just to be totally serious, because I know that is such a cop-out answer, that go write something else, and Audiobooks and Wattpad. But I think if I had a Bialy Pimps, what I would do is to somehow, and I don't know if this is at all possible. Every book is different, but even from what I did read of Bialy Pimps, I could see a way to do this. Write something else that is somehow relevant. If you can't tie it into the story, if it can't be a side story, then it should be something that's just somehow specifically geared toward the same exact kind of reader. If you like this, it's like a near guarantee you will like this other thing too. And then get that thing free on Amazon, perma-free. And that's just a really easy place to send people. You want to have something that's free, that won't take you a long time to write. It shouldn't be a whole second book, but something that you can point people, go here, and there's no friction, there's no resistance. You can get that for free, and if you like it, then you could go get the other book that is my passion project that I've spent all this time on.
What would you guys say about, do we still see any viability of Select with the countdowns or anything like that? I mean, Dave, you said that you're hearing a lot of people saying that.
Yeah, we've heard good things, but we haven't done it yet. We're in Select for Crash. We have to wait a month until we raise the price, which was just on Monday. A month from when a month at your regular sale price, you have to have it there. Then you can do the countdown deal. So we have to wait a month before we can actually see how effective that is for us. Simon Cantan had a question. When should you promote your own work? Should you wait until a series is 3 books deep, or promote right away, or wait even longer?
I think it depends on how fast you're writing, because if it takes you another 2 years to get 3 books out, then no, you absolutely want to be at least softly marketing what you have in the meantime. But if you could take a real strategic approach and say, okay, I'm going to take 6 months and I'm just going to bunker down and I'm going to do these 3 books all at once, then get the first one out there and start editing and post-production on the next 2, and do some kind of cycle like that, that might make a lot of sense.
This has come up before, and I think it depends a little on the definition of promote. So I wouldn't do paid promotion for a first book. Now we are doing that for the Dream Engine, even though that's a first in a series and there's nothing to up by. But it's a different animal, and I don't want to go into that.
Yeah.
Right. And plus we're in a different place. Like we do have back catalog, but I wouldn't do that. But I would definitely tell your list. Like you tell your people, tell social media, tell your list. Just don't spend disproportionate amounts of time, and I wouldn't spend money on it until you have maybe 3. So just as a PS, I mentioned the Fat Vampire Value Mail 1 through 4 with the BookBub ads. That works really, really well now. But the reason it works isn't what you might think. It's not that it raises the profile of 1 through 4. It's that I get a lot of buy-through to 5 and 6. So after I do a promo, and I lower the prices of 5 and 6 from $3.99 to $2.99 during the promo for the value meal, and like people buy that right away, and they're continuing to buy. Like it's selling better than the value meal right now. 5 and 6 are just clicking along.
Yeah,
so that's where you get your benefit.
Like you were saying, you were worried about giving away the first 4 at 99 cents, and that is a real fear, especially when that book was doing okay, or when that series was doing well for you, and you didn't just want to hand it over. But at the same time, you got to consider, you're getting a lot more people than were going to buy it anyway, and that's the trade-off. It's like it's like the piracy thing. People are worried about their book being pirated, but you're getting a lot of people that wouldn't have read you anyway, and they might go on to buy something else of yours. There's a case to be made for that. And as far as the reason for waiting, not promoting your first book and waiting until you have the third book out, and I think we all are in agreement on this. I forget who initially said it. Somebody else, not us, but basically said like the worst thing you could do is have a book become really popular and not have another one to go to. And you're going to catch, you only have so many opportunities to catch a new reader's attention, and you're better served by getting a lot of readers at once if you have other books for them to go to. If you only have one book and they hear of you and they go out and buy you and they're like, holy shit, I love this guy or this girl, they're awesome, oh, they have no other books out, they might not think to look for you again, and that would be a bad place to be. I mean, there's worse things that can happen, but that is a reason for waiting.
I just read a book, a YA book that I really, really liked called Timebound, and I wanted to know what happened next, and that's it. It's the only book, and and I'm just like I'm paranoid that I'm going to forget about that book or that author. Like I imagine I could Google, and maybe she has a website, but there wasn't anything in the book about signing up for releases. It was traditionally published. There wasn't a mailing list CTA, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like I'm a customer, and I want to know. I want more books now. And if there aren't more books now, then I want to make sure I don't miss them. We made the same argument in Write, Publish, Repeat when Eminem's latest album was going to come out. Like, Sean, you got to remind me when that comes out. I don't want to forget, So I think you need that. You need the mailing list for sure. We didn't answer the select question. Do you think you would, today, in that day and age, for a first person, would you use that?
I'll tell you in a week, or I'll tell you in a month.
Yeah, I mean, without knowing that data.
For you guys, because you're established?
Yeah, no. Without that data, I think that's a really fair question, and it's one that we're still asked pretty frequently because Select gives you something that that does have value. I think that yes, I probably would, but the only way I would do it is if ahead of time. I wouldn't do it on a whim, like, oh, let's just see how this worked. I think I would do it with, okay, the only way to really make this viable is to make sure that I have a few reviews lined up, and that means, getting people that which will make Dave, shiver over there. But I think that when your first book, that's what you do. You get people who love you to read it, and you say, don't go tear this up, but if you don't like it, don't say anything at all. If you like it, leave me a review. Get just the bare amount of reviews that you could possibly get, and then go try to do ad buys onto the Select, because
you would do ad buys. You would do ad buys.
No, I wouldn't do ad buys, but I would only do. Okay, there's two parts to this, because no, I wouldn't do ad buys on a first-time book. I would just go write another book. But if the question is, would I use Select on the book I already have, I would only use Select in conjunction with ad buys, because I don't think there's any power there if you're not sending traffic to the promotion. And I think it's pretty safe to assume that if you just wrote your first book, you don't have a list, you don't have, at least not a relevant list, and it's going to be really, really hard to convert those readers. So the best way to do that is let Amazon do it for you. And if Amazon's going to do it for you, then you have to at least try to supply some of the traffic. Otherwise, it's just getting lost.
If it is your first book, you need to remember that it's going to be people are going, if they're going to find you at all, they're going to stumble across it. Like, you're going to be able to send whatever traffic you can. The rest is going to be, you're hoping for those also bots, or if you manage to rank somehow, or the Kindle countdown catches fire, or whatever, if you do Select. And so I would just urge, especially with the first book, if you're trying to really make it catch fire, I would do the best you can with the cover. Now, you're not going to probably be able to spend $400 or $500 for a cover, or you could use 99 Designs, but you may not want to spend that much money. But you got to remember, like, people are coming across you, they have no idea who you are, and so you want to be able to have those early reviews. I thought of that with Sean. Send out beta copies ahead of time so that you can get some reviews. If you use Select, I would probably suggest making it free for 1 day, maybe 2 at the beginning, and then trying to send the people you can so that they're actually downloading it, as opposed to just getting it from you, which means that it would be a verified review when they post the review, and just really make sure your copy is clean and crisp. And then I would probably, if I were in Select, I would use the days in at least 2 sections. I would wait till the end and try to do another free run once you have the reviews in place. You've tweaked your cover or your copy enough that it's conversion ready. Because it's not just about sending the traffic; it's about converting the traffic you get.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I would also use Select. If you have managed to write 2 or 3 books in a series or related works, and you're not in a rush to get to the other places like Kobo, Barnes & Noble, Apple, then I would try Select just to see if you can get some synergy there with all the different titles. We have a few questions in the comments. I'm going to get real quick to the one that's not related. Jesse Jameson asked, did we get a bump in downloads from Digital Book Day? Digitalbookday.com, I believe.
I got to look at that.
CJ Lyons put together this thing with a bunch of free books. If you're listening live right now, Tuesday, July 15th, you can go get Yesterday's Gone Season 1 for free there in the science fiction tab. There's like 400 other books, though. You can get a bunch of great stuff there. If you're listening after the fact, probably not. But some of them might still be free, assuming she leaves the site up. I don't know if we had a huge bump. I didn't check. Yesterday there were some issues with the site. It actually did so well that it got knocked off, or it wasn't working. So I don't know, and I didn't check, and I'm not super concerned about whether we got sales or free downloads from it or not.
Yeah, that's not why we did it.
It is,
and you couldn't link to the Amazon page anyway, so I don't know that those sales would show up.
Well, mine were actually, we did ours on our website. I set it up free there, so I could go and look at the stats, but I just haven't. I don't honestly care that much to track it.
I'm just curious.
We have a question. Ephraim Mallory says, if you've already, I'll just get to the question. If you have several awesome ideas, all of them with serious creative juice, they're all talking to me and want to be written, how do you choose? I would say choose the thing that you think will sell the best.
Yeah, if all things are being equal, I actually would say do the thing that feels the best for you, because I think that's probably the one that your instinct is saying is right. It'll be easier to write. That'll come through. But if all things are equal, then yeah, you go with the thing that has the most commercial viability. Absolutely.
What else do you got, Dave?
We had an unrelated question. I guess we can answer it, though. Simon Quintan asked if there's any themes. Would you say there's anything common to all of your work? Like Spielberg always has the absent father thing. Well, I think Inkwell always has children in jeopardy and absent fathers.
Yeah, and hide and seek.
I think there's a lot of similarities.
Drug use,
We have a lot of drug use, but
painkiller addiction.
I think that CI's work consistently, every title that we've ever put out, short story or long, in some way deals with core fears. I think that's kind of our hallmark. I think with Realm and Sands, we're always trying to. I think we ask ourselves a lot of questions, and
we're trying to explain the world to us.
Yeah, we use the stories to explain them. So even in something as stupid as a unicorn story, there really is. There's questions that we're asking ourselves. I think the only exception there is a Space Shuttle, which
or any of the comedies. Really.
Any of the comedies, and those are designed to make us laugh.
I think it's interesting that if you boil our books, our two branches, Realm and Sands and Collective Inkle, if you boil them down to their very essence, ours they're very childlike. Ours are getting over fears, and yours are exploring the world. I think we do explore the world in CI as well, but a lot of it is fear. That speaks to who we are. I'm a fearful person, and Johnny's a very inquisitive person, and Sean is also inquisitive and not very fearful though.
There are recurring things that come up enough that I've said several times during story meetings. Well, we might not want to go in that direction because we already did that, or we need to find a way to adjust it. So one of the things that we hit a lot is the idea of evil or flaws or things that people would never usually consider to be negative, things that people avoid, as being necessary. That's something that comes up over and over and over again.
We do that at Inkwell too. Our bad guys are often so relatable.
Yeah, but this is more specific. So, like, the best example I can think of is Robot Proletariat, but I think it's a really big spoiler.
That's kind of a spoiler, but in Unicorn Western, it's about that we do see that Edward, who is a representative of white magic, because he's a unicorn, does argue sometimes for the Clint flaws him in a way because Clint is human and
because it's necessary, stupid.
Right. So, but that comes up over and over again. There are a lot of I can't remember. There was one in Fat Vampire that I almost didn't. I worried about using in something else. But for Stephen King, it's Absent Fathers too. Like that's you said Steven Spielberg, I think. Did you?
Well, no, Spielberg is Absent Fathers for sure.
Okay, so but Stephen King, like his protagonists, a lot of them are writers, and there's always some shit going on with his father. Good versus evil is another King thing, and I think that writers have that as an indisputable part of their voice.
Well, because people are people. I mean, how many people do you...
I love that I've gotten to know Dave enough that I saw that coming too.
How many people do you know who don't have their own shit, right? We all have our shit. So it makes sense that we bring our shit to our art.
Right.
Quotidian Light says this is a really good podcast. Thank you. Bipolar asks, what do you guys think about Garrett Robinson's vlog novel project he's been doing? I've not yet seen it. Have you guys?
I've not seen it, but I appreciate the concept. I think the concept is great.
Yeah, I love everything that Garrett does on YouTube. He's very good on YouTube. He uses it very well.
His video about what if we talk to artists like you talk to other people is fantastic.
Oh, we should put that in the show notes. That is fantastic.
Yeah, and I love that you can make those suggestions now because I don't write the show notes. So hey, Jason, how's it going?
The architect, the architect one in the video, that is funny. That is just so funny. So,
do you remember what it was, or are you just going to leave it hanging like a cock tease?
No, it's because it's all in delivery. But the video is, what if it's like on minute 2 or something. But it's an architect walking up. It's people walking up to an architect on the party, just like people walk up to writers and say, "Oh, I have this great idea for a story."
Right, for a building.
Right. He's like, "I've been thinking of this building."
People still use houses, or stuff like that.
People still live in houses. Turns out they do. It's good stuff. The one of the things I want to go back to Select a little bit because I think that we may have come across as endorsing Select across the board, and I'm ambivalent on it. Like I don't know if I would suggest Select for a first-time author. Maybe not. But I would say that if you do use it for 90 days and then be done.
Yes.
Because
don't let it slip because they auto enroll you.
Right. So you need to go in and manage your KDP Select and turn off the auto enrollment before your period ends. Otherwise, they won't. They'll enroll you again. But here's the reason, and this is a tactics versus strategy thing. Like logically, there's one place you can get your book. One, like that just doesn't make sense to me. And we have readerships on Barnes & Noble and Kobo and even Apple and occasionally on Smashwords that wouldn't have found us otherwise. And those are additional readers. And those are Carl Sinclair was telling us about a coworker of his who was reading the Beam on Kobo in Australia, and he didn't what's this you're reading? Oh, Platt and Truant, the Beam. And like that sort of thing wouldn't occur if we were only on Amazon. Mm-hmm. And so even if you feel like you might be losing sales, well, you're splitting hairs on this. I would still probably tend to want to go wide.
Think long term.
It's long term, exactly. And actually, in the spirit of long term, like I kind of believe in going direct as many places as possible. Yeah, Apple was a hard nut to crack, but now that I've figured it out, like everything goes direct to Apple. And the reason is because when you run a promo, like if you do a BookBub ad, if you can't adjust the price on Apple yourself, you can't send traffic to it, because trying to adjust, from $2.99 to 99 cents on Smashwords, it'll take months. So, but you can do those things little by little. You don't need to get them all right the first time.
And that's the important thing to never lose sight of, because I think we all feel like the clock is ticking and all of that, but it really is, it's graduated growth. I think that it's really important to look at things, how are we incrementally moving forward, and that's so hard when you're talking about the time of your first book, because it's almost like that first book for so many authors is the finish line, right? Because in their head, for however long it took them to write that book, that was the very first finish line on their horizon, right? That was the very first thing they wanted to cross. I'm done with my book. I'm a published author. And it's all the other stuff that really matters to an author's career. All that other stuff is prologue.
And if most people are honest, we all know that first book isn't going to make us rich. But then you'll kind of go, well, but
it could.
What? It could get into Oprah's hands, and she could tell. And so you don't want to believe that, but there's that little inkling there. And so it will make your decisions more emotional than they probably should be.
We got a few more comments.
I was going to ask about questions, and then we should probably be done.
Yeah. Missy Morgan asks, do you guys ever worry what people who read your dark fiction think about you, or are you confident enough that you don't give a damn? Chrissy Moss responded, if you listen to BOU, they know they give very few damns. I think the only time I worry about it is well after the fact. Like if my mother-in-law had read a book and then I remember, we had like a graphic oral sex scene in there. I'm not too concerned, because I think most people I know in real life don't read my books. So I don't know what that says. Let me see. Simon says, except about sex, they said they're not comfortable talking about sex. Did we say that? I don't remember that.
No, I actually didn't. No, here's how I feel about that. I actually told my mother the last time that I had a conversation with her. I actually told her about Lexi and that I was working with Lexi and all of that, which was very weird because my mother, if any of you out there have not read Writer Dad, is a little crazy. And Johnny, what's your favorite line in the book? Do you remember it off the top of your head?
My mother dressed like she was kidding.
Okay, my mother dressed like okay. So my mom she's a little nutty, and she had this whole thing with not letting me see nudity in movies, and she's just a little wacky. But anyway, no, I think the only thing that holds me up at all is the fact that my children aren't really old enough to have these discussions. But my rule for anything that I write is, could I look my children in the eye after they read this? And I can say 100% of the things that I've written, I would have, yes. Because here's the thing. Someday Haley is going to read Yesterday's Gone and think that Mauricio is amazing. And I know that. I know my daughter's personality. I know she's years away from it.
I love the necrophilia scene.
No, but That's the
Yeah,
thing.
I want to date someone like Mauricio.
Okay, here's the thing. I don't care what people who don't know me. Actually, Dave and I had this conversation yesterday. I don't care what people who don't know me think about me. That doesn't bother me at all. I care what people who know me and have had the chance to form an opinion. You know, it matters what they think. It matters very much to me what Johnny thinks of me, or what Dave thinks of me, or what my mother or father or Cindy or Haley or Ethan think of me. That matters to me. But some nameless, faceless person, you know, if I have an exchange with an SPP listener, and it's, you know, like I feel like I'm being helpful and we exchange a few emails, and then I heard that, like, well, that Sean, he's really cunty, that would hurt my feelings because we had a personal exchange, right? But someone just reading my book and thinking, oh, that guy's a psycho, like, whatever, I don't care. Like, Mauricio's funny.
I'm actually glad you asked that question because I haven't thought about it at all, and it surprises me that I don't care. Not that I'm writing dark stuff, a lot of dark stuff, but there's a lot of controversial stuff in Realm and Sands books, and I know that when I wrote the Bialy Pimps, I gave it to my mother because she's my mother, and I don't know, and I kind of said, well, now you're an artist, so right, you can divorce the art from the fact that I'm your son, and I'm being honest here with you, and she probably hesitated a little bit at some of the language in that book, and she still tells me that I shouldn't swear as much as I do, but I guess I've just grown immune to it, and I don't care. I don't know if that's just a very pat answer, but I kind of don't care what anyone thinks.
You know,
I don't think it's anything to be ashamed of.
Right. Because here's the thing. Honestly, if I was ashamed of it, I wouldn't have written it in the first place. Like, I'm proud of the stuff I write. I'm proud of the work with Lexi. I'm proud of Adult Video and Future of Sex. I think they're awesome. And someday I won't care if Haley reads those. I care very much right now. I care very much if Ethan were to read those. I would be horrified. But that has nothing to do with the content. It has to do with the context and their ability to absorb that information. But I think.
And I've also divorced myself from my characters way more than I used to be able to do.
What were you gonna say, Dave?
Well, when I do meet people though, and they ask what I do, I am hesitant to say I'm a writer. Like, if they know me in any way, like, I am hesitant to say that I'm a writer and, hey, you should go check out this book full of, like, the worst horrible curse words you can imagine, because I do because people see, I am polite, but I'm also this guy that writes this stuff. So there are, like, I don't think a lot of people could handle all of me like in that aspect. So I do hesitate. I don't go around telling people I'm a writer.
Now, I will add that I was telling Robin this the other day, that with the Dream Engine, which is a YA, it's much more commercial. It's much more people understand it. It's the right size. It's the right, it's a mainstream book that people understand. I'm actually going to be willing for the first time to just, I can be like, somebody has a teenage daughter that I know. I'd be like, well, here, she might like this. Like, that's neat because I haven't had that with anything else. I've always thought about, well,
Here's Adult Video.
Right, this happens in the Beam, and you just never know. But, like, if somebody doesn't like the Dream Engine, then they don't like it. They're not going to have a judgment like, how could they dare give that to my 17-year-old kid, right, or something, like, And so and actually that's why I want to have the hardbacks before my high school reunion. I've said that, so I can have them in my trunk.
I think that's really awesome.
We got one last question. We got one comment and then one question. Two questions, actually. Quotidian Light says, Dave, can I steal your school shooter during a school shooting story for a short story? I don't know. I guess I can't say no. I put it out there so anyone can take it.
You'll never write it, and if you do, it'll be so different.
Actually, I am writing something. You know about the project I'm talking about, the big one?
Yeah.
And that does come into play there, so...
Is that the one where there's the reality game pitting all the school shooters against one another?
This is a completely serious, stone-cold work that is... I'm very much looking forward to writing.
Most of your life is your work is such.
Because most of it's just downright frivolous. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Right.
Archer Caldwell says, if let's say if we had all these stories that were not yet published, which would I'm trying to make sense of the question. It's kind of written off.
I think I understand what he's going to ask.
Which story, CI, RS, SS, which will go first? White Space, Beam, Yesterday's Gone, Unicorn Western. What will we release first?
What are the choices? Yesterday's Gone, White Space.
If you had is he saying if we had our catalogs right now to release none of them, what order would you release them in? Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, I think
that's a good question. So what is it? White Space, Yesterday's Gone.
I think I stick with Yesterday's Gone first. I might rewrite the first one, but yeah.
Right. Do we have? Are these we basically have season ones of everything. Well, yesterday Unicorn Western's not really seasonal like that.
Well, I don't think we can decide between CI and RS because
you have to decide within the verticals.
Yeah. So
I'd go Yesterday's Gone and the Beam.
No, I would go Yesterday's Gone, then White Space, and then anything else after that.
I wouldn't change the order because every work informs the one after it, and it just
that's true.
I can't divorce it. I can't. I don't know how to answer that. It is what it is. So I wouldn't change it.
Well, I think we followed. Did we follow Yesterday's Gone with the White Space, or did we go right to For Nevermore?
We went right to For Nevermore.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
that was. I still don't know if that was a mistake. It was definitely a mistake in our marketing, and it was a mistake to not do anything with it since. You could make an argument that never doing 47 North and returning to that might have been better. Who knows?
Okay.
But I like For Nevermore. I would love to go back to For Nevermore. We were talking about it. I don't know what it was like 6 months ago. So I reread the first season to prep, and I liked it. I'm like, this is awesome. I want to go back here. So yeah.
Missy Morgan says I would love to write with Dave. I'm really into dark stories too, but don't want my name on them. LOL.
You don't want people thinking you're crazy, eh?
And Simon said it weirded me out a little to have to pass sex scenes across to my co-author, who is also named Dave. All right.
Yeah, Sean and I are over that.
You guys ever pass back sex scenes and get aroused while you're reading it?
Well, I'm the one passing, so I don't know.
No, but your dude on dude cum shot last year really did it for me. Yeah, that was awesome.
Well, and to be fair, we're not writing Lexi scenes. It's just there's a lot more implication that occurs in something like that. Do you want to do before we stop? Do you just want to do just a really really super quick launch update since the Dream Engine is kind of a big thing?
Yeah,
I mean, we're going to launch a week from the 24th is when we're going to launch that officially.
And on the 17th, if you're listening to this and on any one of our lists, you will get an email about the Sterling and Stone site. And what else do we have coming out? Crash is out now and doing well. That it?
I would like to make a request that if anybody, because I know a lot of the unboxers, people in Fiction Unboxed, read the Dream Engine, and I would just like to ask again if anybody who liked it could leave reviews. That would be fantastic because we need the social proof in place before we have our big push. And we have 34. That's cool, but more is better. So that would be awesome. If you read it and would like to pop a review, I would love that. But then we'll have to report on how well that does. Do you still have Crash promotion going, or did you had the one wave and you're going to wait a few months, or?
We're gonna wait a month and set up another round
for the countdown deal.
Yeah, so then we'll know how that actually works. We'll have data.
So is the idea you're sending traffic to it while it's in countdown, so you're hoping it'll have more visibility within that ecosystem?
Yes.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess that'll be it, right? We don't have any final things except for, well, right. And of course, if we were going to have Better Off Undead transcribed, which we aren't, I personally would use Caption Access, even though we don't have Ray here to have Morgan Freeman talking about it and how they get the poops and the plops and
the swishes and the
get the little swishes. I can't do it. They're at captionaccess.com if you have anything you need transcribed, live captioning, has SEO benefits, accessibility benefits. Captionaccess.com. Tell them you heard about them on our site. So I guess that's it. You guys don't have anything else, right? On our podcast. You heard about them. You could hear about them on our site, maybe. but that's not what I meant. So anyway, all right. Well, this has been the Self-Publishing Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to get our best advice without all the off-topic bullshit, be sure to pick up our book, Write, Publish, Repeat.
Oh, I don't know.
The
There's a pretty
Required Guide to Self-Publishing Success at selfpublishingpodcast.com/WPR. And if you've ever wanted to see how a novel really gets written, you can watch Sean and I and Dave during the brainstorming, write one from start to finish with nothing held back at fictionunboxed.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.